Hey, welcome back to another episode of The Boys Next Door.
How you doing?
Oh, how are you doing?
I'm doing well.
So,
I'm excited for what we're going to be talking about today.
it's juicy.
I feel like everybody out there knows Wendy Williams. And if you don't, come on.
Do you live in under a
Where
rock?
have you been? Where has she been?
I like the title though.
Tell us, what is it?
What in the Wendy Williams?
What in the Wendy Williams? Really though, what is going on?
I mean, where do you even start? It's been going on for so long, you know?
Yeah.
She's obviously had some very public health struggles as of recent, and there's been everything from documentaries to news and podcasts and you name it.
I feel like, especially since when she first collapsed on national TV back in 2017,
Yeah.
everybody you guys know. If you don't know, I don't know if it was her Halloween episode when she
It
was
was
dressed up
because she
as
was dressed up
the
as
Statue of Liberty. We've
yes.
all seen that meme, GIF, whatever. you
Oh,
wanna
that
call
was
it.
like the memes.
It's still floating around everywhere, and
Poor thing.
I think people didn't realize what was really happening. They were just, of course, in the way that TV and social media is, everybody just makes their own assumption.
Yeah, and listen, she's had some public struggles with addiction, and I feel like that was like what everybody thought right away, like when she passed out and that she was unhealthy or she fell off the wagon, but that was really the start of like a downward spiral that ultimately ended her show and landed her in a conservatorship.
And I think too, it's important to say that it didn't happen from 2017 to 2018. It was a span of 5 to 6 years.
Yeah, there was a lot of
it happened
between
over.
leave of absences
Yep.
to, then she came out and had said that she was diagnosed with lymphedema and Graves' disease.
And that was before the world shut down.
Yes, that was before the pandemic.
Okay.
She was on and off from being on the show, taking leaves of absences, and then she did announce on the show that she was diagnosed with lymphedema and Graves' disease, and they
Terrible. Yeah.
And it was noticeably the Graves' disease sometimes can really affect a person's eyes, and she did, you can see that she had a little bit of a bulged eye, so she wanted to address it. We all know she's very, forthcoming, so.
And she's very expressive in the way that she speaks.
It's a whole part of her whole persona and what has made her Wendy Williams.
Especially because when she would be on her show, she'd be like, what is this girl doing?
Yeah. And think about the fact that before she was even had her own TV show, she was a radio personality.
You could tell.
I'm older, so
By
I
her
remember
voice, you could
listening to
tell.
her back in the day, and you still got all that energy even through just hearing her on the radio.
Was she on Power 105.1?
I think I want to say that it was Hot 97 back in the day, or
love Hot
107,
97.
or it was 107.5, like one of those.
Okay.
Yeah, it was amazing. But fun fact.
Tell me.
One of the reasons I'm personally so invested is I was lucky enough to do makeup for guests on Wendy Williams. And I've done makeup for a few morning shows, and that was by far the best experience because it was such an electric, everything that you saw on TV, with the crowd going crazy, you didn't even really need crowd motivators. Where they're clap, clap, clap,
Because we've
clap.
even attended shows
Where
where
they're
they're
clap,
okay,
clap, clap.
before this happens,
Exactly.
we're gonna get crazy with the
100%.
audience when the host comes out.
Right. They would probably tell them, but either way, it was such a genuine, and I'm talking from backstage to people that were guests on the show to people that were in the audience
Okay,
watching.
let me ask you this. Have you seen on Jennifer Hudson's show?
Yeah.
She does that tunnel, not like a tunnel.
Okay, so
when
that-
people are when she has guests on the show and they sing a song and they do a dance before they come onto stage.
Wendy Williams was doing that. They just were not airing that.
I believe
but that was absolutely happening behind stage.
I love it.
Guest hair and makeup was up in this long hallway, so very similar. And you know how it is, there's all green rooms kind of lined up, and it was when people would come out of their fitting rooms, everybody was hyping you up, and everybody was already
I need that.
It was the coolest thing. I met Carmen Electra. I got to do.
I would have fainted.
Let me tell you something. Ironically, so Carmen Electra's a guest on the show, and I'm like, oh, this is amazing. I am doing guest makeup, so I'm going to get to do her makeup. The show that she was on was if you would show up on TV without a stitch of makeup on.
Wait, say it again?
Like they were doing like a no makeup on TV, so like Wendy didn't have her makeup on.
So it was like a segment on her show.
It was a segment on her show. So the day that I'm there with Carmen Electra, she's not even getting her makeup done. But luckily,
she probably looked amazing.
She did. She totally did. Like, you know who I thought she was when she was walking down the hallway?
I know exactly who you're going to say.
Who?
But it's not fair because I know.
Okay, well, I told you. That's true. She was walking down the hallway, and I thought it was Lauren Conrad at the time.
Oh, LC from the hills, Laguna Beach, guys.
Looked so young, and this is probably like 10 years ago, and I literally thought it was Lauren Conrad, like from a distance.
I could see that, especially like with their hair color, their eyes.
They have a very
like,
similar vibe. I totally ruined this microphone. I'm like, come on, don't fall. Okay, it's gonna fall.
But Carmen, I feel like just like oozes sex appeal.
She does, and I luckily still got to touch her face because as she was walking down the hallway going to set, I was of course standing in the hallway just wanting to like see her, and I had my makeup brush in my hand. I'm not stupid.
Course.
And she stopped and she's like, "Wait." She's like, "Can you just like real quick like give me like a little something?" And she didn't
no
even
makeup.
yeah. It wasn't even like a no makeup look of by today's standards because it was really just like a quick bronze, a little highlight, and
that's what
she
I have
still
on
looked
today.
like she had. Of course it is. She still looked like she had no makeup on, but it was.
No, I believe it.
It was like it was just like an unbelievable experience because like you would get to go to like sound checks of like if there was a performer. So one time Shaka Khan was on.
While you were there.
While I was there. And of course she traveled with her own hair and makeup, so I didn't do anything for her. But we got to meet her and she did her sound check for staff. So anybody who wanted to go down and sit in the audience. So I just went and sat like where me and you are right now to Shaka Khan singing like Ain't Nobody and I'm Every Woman.
Was Wendy there for that?
No.
She was still getting glam.
Yes, probably. Wendy would come out like real like last minute. Like sometimes they would make a joke that like literally her hairstylist would make a joke like I'm literally throwing her wig on like as she's running out.
I believe it.
And you know one thing that I was like surprised like when I saw her in person, like I didn't get to do her makeup or anything, but I obviously got to interact with her, and she was like a tall lady.
Oh.
Like because I'm tall. And like I was like, oh, she's she's not like little, like you know, she's like a tall.
Especially if she has heels on, she has to be at least 6 feet.
Yes, and at that time she haven't been like you know the lymphedema situation, so she was still wearing heels like every day on the show. But at the same time, she was tall, but she came off like tiny because she had this like she has this like really tiny waist, and then
like her frame is
tiny. She's got a really tiny waist and then like those big boobs, you know, so it was like
it
was just such a present. And she was so kind to everybody there, like you just wanted, like I used to be there and be like, because I didn't get to do it every day, I just got to do it here and there. Vicky at the time like was a Bravo personality, and she would bring me whenever she would do like a morning show, she would bring me, and then I bonded with the people at the Wendy show, so they called me back to do makeup after that. But it wasn't like
when you weren't with Vicky.
Yes, but it wasn't like my everyday job. But I got to go back and do like a makeover show.
I was just gonna say I loved when you, like when we first met. Like one of the first things I saw was when you gave that woman a total like.
It was one of my.
I know like the term like makeover, but it's like when
it
shows
was
would
like
have,
a makeover. Like
segment,
it was really like
she almost fainted.
She was like one of those like I'm a nurse. I only wear scrubs, and you know. Like I want, like somebody wanted to like do something nice for her. The only thing that was annoying was I did like, she was so beautiful, this lady, and I did this like beautiful makeup and this beautiful eye on her, and then they gave her like bangs that literally were like to here. So like all you saw was like her cheekbone, which was amazing because she's still
especially with hair, people think like, oh, I'll give you bangs. It like changes everything.
100%.
Which it does.
No, it does. And it looked amazing, but it was still like I was like, oh, you can't see her eyes. But anyway, the atmosphere there was infectious, and it was.
I wish I got to go.
It's no secret, no surprise that the show was on for as long as it was, but at the same time, it was so apparent when she started having trouble. So, like we were saying before, she gets diagnosed with those things. She's taking leaves of absences here and there, and then she comes back on and admits, I believe it was around 2019, that she was living in a sober house and that she had, relapsed and she was having problems with addiction. So everybody was like really super compassionate to her.
When you say that, just even for myself, was she living there by herself or with like a group of people?
A sober house is usually with a not just one person. It's usually like a bunch, a certain amount of people. I'm sure the number can vary, but you're just living amongst other people that are trying to stay sober that need constant supervision.
Okay.
So like even back then, if you think about it, like there was already inclinations that she was struggling staying sober when left to her own devices. Like,
let me ask you this: was she still married? Like, before all of that happened with her ex-husband?
She was still married. I think that was all started happening simultaneously. Like then she got divorced, and it was a lot. Yeah. Like I think at that time. This part, don't quote me on because this I don't know for a fact, but I believe like at that time when she was going through all that, her current husband at the time was being seen with another woman, and I think even got another woman pregnant. Because there's a video of Wendy and that's where she is receiving a phone call from her ex, and he's like, I have to tell you something. And she's like, oh, you got her pregnant, right? You're having a baby.
Was that on the documentary?
It was not on the documentary, but they were airing that clip all around the times of the documentary because, one, they kind of wanted to make it look like it was part of the documentary, but it was just like one of the last things that she had addressed. So then the pandemic hits, right? So now everybody's kind of like working from home, things are canceled.
It wasn't like too out of the norm for her to be like, I'm going on hiatus right now.
Right.
So it kind of like worked in her favor.
Absolutely.
In that sense. Because people weren't going to question it too much, but they're still like, we're home, we want our entertainment.
Absolutely.
Wendy, where the hell are you?
Absolutely.
What in the Wendy Williams?
Matt, I'm so sorry, but my mic is going to fall. I can't hold it anymore. Anyway, so.
Yeah. I feel like you talk louder.
I'm sweating. Well, I've been holding the microphone.
I know.
It's going to fall. Okay, cool.
Thanks, Wendy.
So like you said, it was during that time, it was pretty easy to kind of fly under the radar because everybody was doing their own thing.
Yeah, of course.
Nobody was getting dressed. But there were signs because you remember when everybody started coming back to talk shows and they were doing them with no audiences, right?
Yes.
And then some of them
I forgot about that.
I didn't. And some of them were doing them from home. But like hosting, like Wendy did a few.
Even Watch What Happens Live when Andy was doing it.
And they were having the Zoom host.
Yes. Oh my God,
Wendy's, none of those went smooth for her. Like those.
Really?
No. Like if you go back and watch those, because I watched every single one, there was, I'm not saying at the time I was like, oh, there's something wrong with her, but there was definitely some red flags. But it was easy also to be chalked up to, this is confusing. Nobody's ever this is new for all of us. So
like she was still navigating it.
Doing a Zoom, like it was all very easy to just be like, well, whatever.
Yeah,
but there was some outright, like kind of like, I would say even rude things she said to guests while she was interviewing them that got
But I feel like even with Wendy, like people always knew that she was going to say something outlandish.
You're right, but it wasn't in that Wendy way where it felt like she was kind of like, doing
sassy,
her thing and
like
throwing shade. It was more like a very direct, like pointed. That's a perfect way of putting it. So it was like getting real awkward. So then once people went back in the studios, she never went back into the studios. I
remember that.
That was it. She did like 1 or 2 shows with the empty audience, but like she delayed her season premiere and then never returned. And then and then that entire season, that was various guest hosts.
Okay.
And Sherry Shepherd was one of them.
Love Sherry.
And then by the end of that season, it was announced that the Wendy show was canceled.
But she never did like a farewell episode.
No.
Nothing.
No. So it was announced that it was canceled. Simultaneously, Wells Fargo puts in an inquiry or whatever you would say. They submit papers that they feel like she needs a financial guardian, or that she's not capable of making. Now, there's a lot of people that some people say the red flags are from, well, she was distracted. Her son was spending her money crazy. Her
Do you
son,
believe it?
I think that it's partially probably true, but at the same time, because I've heard him say in interviews that wasn't necessarily any different than what I was normally used to.
I feel like I remember him saying like, oh, if I wanted to do Uber Eats, like use Uber Eats or take an Uber, like my mother would be like, do whatever you need.
Right. So it wouldn't be out of the norm if he was
like
still
red flags.
Right. But at the same time, if she's kind of like in a place where people are questioning what's going on with her, and then he's spending money like normal, of course it's going to raise red flags. Oh, yeah. You know, like it's happened to other people. Like look at Britney Spears. Like there is other.
Is she really free?
It's a whole nother episode. But you know what the sad part is? Like we're talking about Britney Spears, we're talking about Wendy Williams, but think about all the people that have no platforms that probably have had this happen to. Not to say that there's not times when a conservatorship might be needed, but think about the people that have no one fighting for them, or that like if they post on their social media that no one cares.
Like in a bad way.
Yeah. No, like it's really hard. Like
I think it's hard though with somebody, like you said, that has a platform and is a public figure, because what makes somebody just decide that? Like, are they just trying to take advantage of her? I mean, like because of her financial standing at the bank?
You can't, it's not it's not impossible. That's part,
like, even like how Britney says, like, it
was financially motivated.
Gave her all that medication and were putting her on lithium and all
things
of that.
That she swore, like if you really read her story, if that was in her words, you really would be shocked that like your parent would put you on something that your family has like a history of like bad reactions to. You know what I mean?
Oh, true.
So it's like, it's very, but then you could say like once doctors get involved, like who really is calling the shots then?
I feel like if somebody has a guardian, they're trusting the guardian, because if they're saying the patient is mentally incapacitated or cognitively impaired, they're going to be like, oh, this person needs X, Y, and Z, or they have to stay here.
Well, I mean, that's true. But then, okay, so like, well, then look at Wendy. So then you don't see her, right? Okay. Nobody knows what's going on. There was like one little video of her walking on the beach in Florida with her son. Like, I want to say that was like
her comeback to Instagram.
Yes, but it wasn't even like on her Instagram. It was like her son, and she was just like walking on the beach, and he asked her, they asked her how she was doing. I don't even know if it was announced that Wendy Williams was canceled yet, but she was kind of saying like, it ain't over for me. Like it was, she was saying that she was just taking time for herself and whatever.
Like a mental break.
Right. Wells Fargo gets the guardianship approved, and she's appointed a guardian. No one knows who this guardian is until that Lifetime documentary.
What is that called? Where in the World is Wendy Williams?
Where in the World is Wendy Williams? That's actually what it was called.
I thought so.
Where in the World is Wendy Williams? Just want to make sure.
And Sabrina is appointed her guardian.
Yep.
And I didn't know when I was watching it that, like, there are clips of her speaking to Wendy, and I just thought it was somebody, a friend of hers or somebody that she just had close to her that was taking her.
No, that was actually her.
But when me and you were speaking about it, and I was like, wait, that was literally the Sabrina that was on the documentary.
That's why I had asked you that myself, because I was like, even in the news now, you keep hearing Sabrina is the guardian, but all of a sudden, I don't know why, I was like, wait, that Sabrina that was in that documentary, that's the same Sabrina. So she's been around, I think, since 2022.
Yes.
That's a long...
And she was only supposed to be a temporary guardian.
Right.
But 3 years later, doesn't seem so temporary, if you ask me.
True. But then back to the documentary, there's a lot of gray area with that, because some people say that she did not voluntarily sign up for that and would have never signed up to show herself in that way.
It was very raw, vulnerable. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but it really was eye-opening.
It was disturbing.
Especially because she was off the air for so many years at that point.
For that to be the first look that you got back, it was jarring. It was, not from somebody that met her or not, even if you've never met her and just seen her, it was unsettling. The behaviors, there were parts of that documentary where it was obvious that she did not have food in her house, that she was not physically capable of taking care of herself, like basic necessities.
I feel like they've even showed like her without her beautiful weaves in.
They took her.
They
She had no
literally took it
fucking
off
wig
on
on. She
camera.
was sitting
I
there
know.
with no wig on.
I know.
But here's one of the things that I think is like the biggest thing in question that really, there's no question that when you were watching that you've seen that she was visibly having a problem with alcohol.
Absolutely.
And that was just on camera what you saw.
And they showed it.
Full bottles of vodka.
Asking her, when did you drink this last? Like, major things.
And no one who was around her at that time seemed to be able to control what she was intaking, nor did they seem to think it was that much of a problem. They were also saying, like, well, you know, she is a grown woman. She can do this. Like, we know what...
Which is true.
Yes and no, but to see with someone like that, like, there was seriously a problem.
Especially when they were filming that over the span of, like, 2 years.
Right.
They knew something was not right.
And on that documentary, Wendy, her son was on that documentary, and he said that she was diagnosed with alcohol-induced dementia.
Which honestly was the first time I ever
I had never heard of it, but looked it up. It's a very real thing. Now, with alcohol-induced dementia, also known as a wet brain, which is such a horrible expression, but... Yeah. I mean, like, what is it even fucking?
What is that?
A wet brain? It's just, I think it's like, they're trying to say
I'm
it's
just
like
such a
wet.
visual person.
Me too. So I'm picturing a brain soaked in alcohol. Are you?
Yeah, I could smell the tequila from
That's
there.
what I picture. So they say that she had, her son said that it was alcohol-induced dementia.
Okay.
And that if she was to get sober, and his whole thing in that whole documentary was when she was in Florida and she was under the family's care, she was thriving, she was eating healthy, she was walking.
Interacting with people.
Interacting, that's when they made that video.
Yes.
So there was definitely truth to that. Like, it seemed like he really was taking good care of her at the time.
Like, you really think like she took care of him for all those years, raised him,
Absolutely.
gave him financial stability,
Absolutely.
anything he wanted. Then why would he, quote unquote, exploit her like that?
He says, or they were saying at the time that, you know, as soon as the people up here and the powers that be realized that she had no intentions of coming back here to New York and was going to stay in Florida, that's when they really pushed the gas to like force her to come back here.
Because she ended up selling her penthouse.
Yes, but that was after. But they were like, you have to come back here. You still have obligations here. Like, your family is not fit to take care of you.
I remember that.
So then they bring her back here. They appoint this guardian. And in that time, she signs, some people say it's not her signature. Some people say it is.
Oh, what is it, a ghostwriter?
She signs the agreement to do this documentary, which is filming her. Now, Lifetime says, in their defense, that there were times when they were filming that they said, it's clear that something is going on here. Does she need help? They said that they stayed on set longer than they needed to, just in fear of the fact that she was going to be alone.
That's really sad.
Which is totally
sad.
So there's all these like conflicting, like, some people say Sabrina is the one that is at the, that made, is taking advantage of her. Some people saying that Lifetime was the one taking advantage of her. Like,
I think that like there's a chance Wendy at one point could have been like, you know what, I haven't been on TV, I haven't shown my face. I do want to show people what's really going on.
So that's what
even
other people...
watching it, I felt that.
So yeah, because there are moments of clarity, you're right, during it that she says out of her own mouth, that she wanted to tell her own story.
Yes.
But like, people are saying, was she able to make that decision at that time to say, like...
I don't know.
You know what I mean? Like,
and I don't know if let's say on Monday, she's like, I'm doing this film. But then on Tuesday, Wednesday, she has 2 bad days. But then Thursday, Friday, she's back to Wendy.
Especially if you're not sober.
Because she wasn't at the time.
There was that time that there's 2 things in that documentary that left really hardcore impressions on me. When she asked the driver to take her by the Wendy Williams Show over and over again. It was so sad. And he was even telling her, like, it's not the Wendy Williams show anymore. So at that point, Sherry had taken over.
Is that when that clip of her aired where she's like, I have no idea where I am?
Yes.
What is this?
Yes. And that, and then in the same breath, she would say, yeah, I know what we're doing. We're going to the doctor. So you can tell me I'm crazy.
Yes.
Like, so she was aware, but she was so not sober at the time too, that it's so erratic that
you almost couldn't pinpoint, like, is this, like, she just excessively drinking? Is she mentally declining?
Exactly.
Okay.
And then you pair that with her other health issues, like, because now in the video, in that whole special, she's barely mobile.
It left such an impression
When she
me
showed her ankles.
when they showed her feet and her ankles, and that was from lymphedema.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you guys saw it, but she was doing a photo shoot.
Yeah.
And she's in front of the backdrop. And she starts like screaming, basically, like, I can't get up. I can't get up.
Lymphedema is also painful because it affects lymphatic drainage. And, it usually happens when people have had lymph nodes removed or they're compromised for some reason. And unfortunately, oftentimes when people go through chemo or if they remove lymph nodes to survive cancer, you survive and you could be left with this lymphedema, which at the time when you're going through chemo or going through treatment sounds like, okay, I'll deal with
whatever it takes.
Right. And then when you're well, because I've seen it up close and personal, so many people dear to me that have struggled with that, and it's really hard because it's deformative. And not only is it deformative, it's painful because it's not natural that you have that much fluid gatherings and your skin is so tight, and it's awful. So with her angles being like deformed like that, she also would never have shown that, and that also speaks to, because like when she was vocal on her show when she transitioned from heels to like Uggs.
I remember
and she would talk about it, but she wasn't showing people her ankles. She was talking about it. But then all of a sudden on that special, she's lifting up her feet onto the camera, even in interview shots. Like, it came off erratic and unhinged.
But I felt like it was her doing it.
It was,
like she was willingly showing.
She was. I don't think that she wasn't willingly, but it's like, it doesn't seem like she had her wherewithal to understand what she was really maybe putting out there or how invasive. Like, also the other scene I was going to say that's so impressive is the scene with Black China, Angela, who I will never look at the same way after watching that.
She was
because
Aunt Wendy.
Yeah, I've passed judgment on that girl, and
of course.
She really, when she went to visit her, it was probably one of the worst that she was in that documentary, Wendy.
I think that's true.
She had no wig on, and she
didn't seem right.
It was really like she was speaking very repetitively and short sentences, and they didn't really have any
like context to them.
Any context to what Angela or Black China was saying to her, and Black China just adjusted so well and was so kind. And she just kept, that part got me. I mean, listen, not to mention watching that whole thing, it's so emotional. So once you got to that part, it was kind of just like, oh, okay, it's happening now. Yeah. I'm going to cry. But she was really so unbelievable. And it was like a real moment, but it also showed like how sick she really was. Yeah. So after that was released, it's
almost like when, I'm sorry to cut you off, like, the way Black China visited her is almost when you're going to visit a loved one that's suffering from something, and they showed that, like you said, the kindness and the compassion that she extended towards her. Yeah. And it really did, as a viewer, feel like she was not able or capable to have that kind of a conversation or make those decisions on her own. No. You could see that she was one of the most warmest she responded to anybody on that whole show. Was the way she seemed genuinely happy. Even when her niece Alex had come in, that was heartbreaking to watch. She comes into her aunt's apartment, and they show in the interviews how she's like, I'm sure she's going to greet me in some, crazy Aunt Wendy outfit. And, she was just expecting. Because she hadn't seen her. I mean, she knew there was things going on, but she had no idea that that's what was going on. And then you show up to your aunt's apartment. There's camera crews up. This woman is here kind of making you feel like a stranger. Wendy.
Making Alex feel like a stranger because the
Was
guardian.
making her feel like
Alex,
Sabrina,
Wendy, and Sabrina. It was Sabrina. I mean, Sabrina was being welcoming, but it was too much. Like, it was very like, we've been so excited to see you. We this, we that. And like Alex was kind of just like, who are you again? Like, who the fuck is this
I don't
lady?
blame her.
I would be the exact same way.
Absolutely.
And Wendy was kind of being a little, I don't want to say cold, but
Like dismissive?
it was a little like, if you hadn't, knowing how close they are, I mean, that girl they are very close, like
Yeah.
mother-daughter kind of bond. And after not seeing somebody for that long, it's not the reception that girl was expecting.
No, I
The
get that.
whole
I
way to
totally
the
get that.
apartment and the car from the airport, they're like, Alex, what do you think it's going to be like? I mean, these people know now what
Do you think they were gassing her up?
Yes.
though? Because they knew.
and that's the way
that
they
she was
showed
gonna
it.
be,
That's
like,
the way they edited.
shell-shocked.
Yes.
See,
Yes.
Like, I can't get down with that.
But that's why after that was released, it was like letting a genie out of a bottle. There was no
that's
going
good.
back from that, because now everyone saw what was going on. Everyone saw how bad it was. And everybody's like, wait, who's making these decisions? This Guardian made this okay? Or Lifetime made this okay? Like, it was so...
Let me ask you this. Why can't Alex or her son be her guardian?
Nobody really knows that. At the
Or
end...
even her, her immediate
sister.
family. Yeah, her sister.
Listen, at the end of that documentary, because it was filmed over, I believe, 2 years.
I believe so.
At the and they kept adding like up to as close to present as they got, and her sister was on there saying that was their goal, because at first they didn't really even want anything to do with it, because they were like, this is not what you should be doing right now with everything going on. And Wendy was like, well, I want to tell my story, and if I don't put it out there, and then they kind of felt like they were on the outside of the guardianship, so they
Her
felt
family.
so they felt like, well, if doing this documentary is the only way to get our voice and what we think on and out there, then we'll do it. And initially it was just Alex, but by the end of the documentary, the sister is on. And she's like, our goal is to show that we are more than capable of taking care of
I remember
Wendy.
that.
She does not need a guardian that's not her family. We have the means, like all of the things, like this shouldn't be happening. But after that, the next thing you hear is that she's diagnosed with frontotemporal dementia, aphasia, the one that Bruce Willis has.
They were saying it was progressive aphasia,
Progressive
which is fast, right?
Yes, it's fast, rapid. So then she goes into a permanent care facility, which now the public, after just seeing what we saw on the Lifetime one, it made perfect sense, because you're like, oh wow, she's really...
This the assisted living she was moved into?
That's where she was moved, and you're like, well, she really obviously needs help. Like, look at what she's alone. There's not the people around her. The family can't get to her. The guardian.
Her sobriety was an issue.
Sobriety.
Yeah.
So of course, maybe she does need help. She shouldn't be left in her own house to fend for herself. And then you really didn't hear anything else until recent months.
On the Breakfast Club.
All of a fucking sudden, I thought it was fake at first, because I started seeing clips from like everything's getting picked up everywhere.
I remember we were together and you were like, is this old?
I thought
You're
it was
like, are these
old.
old clips
I was like, this
resurfacing?
is not possible. So all of a sudden we're seeing clips everywhere. Like, oh, please don't go. Okay, thank God. Thought it was going down again. Wendy calls into the Breakfast Club talking to Charlemagne the God,
Charlemagne.
speaking out against her conservatorship, saying that she is in a memory care floor
And with her words, she said with a bunch of 90-year-olds.
with 80 and 90-year-olds. And she was polite about it in the fact that she was like, well, she keeps saying, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Like, she's
That's
saying
right.
that those people are definitely in need of where they are, because they
course.
don't know who they are. But she's like, that is not my situation.
I remember her even saying, like, I am a 60-year-old woman.
She
they are not like me.
Is fucking fired up, calling in daily. And then on the interview, She asked Charlamagne, she's like, do you think I sound impaired? Do you think I sound, they said I'm incapacitated? How
I don't
dare,
think she did.
She said, how dare they? And he said, she said to him, do you think I sound that way? And he said, well, you've been calling me every day for weeks now. I've been talking to you for hours a day. He's like, so no, I don't think so. He's like, I think you sound like old school Wendy.
I was just going to say, like, the shade in her voice was back. Like, that spark was there.
Then there's been, a lot of talk about that. Some people are like, well, she does still sound kind of very repetitive. She is using and then other people are saying, no, that's how she was. So if anything, she's going back to how she always used to speak. Now, the real thing is like, if she has the aphasia that Bruce Willis has, unfortunately, there is, like you said, it's progressive. There is no improvement, right? You don't get better as of right now. Unfortunately, there's no cure. So from when that Lifetime aired to what we would be seeing now should be worse if that's what she has. True. But if she had alcohol-induced dementia, if you do get sober, there is chances that some cognitive function can come back.
I believe that.
Which that's what it looks like happened. It looks like she got sober, and from being sober for a long period of time, she started to get cognitive function back, and she's being more herself.
But let me ask you this. Do you feel like if she got cognitive...
That's just my opinion.
Of course. We're not doctors.
I'm not a doctor.
Guys.
That's my
opinion.
opinion.
Just our opinion. Do you feel like if and now that she's sober, that her cognitive function is coming back, but she could still have the aphasia?
Well...
Because that could still be progressing in one direction, which could be why
it can't be the one
herself.
that they diagnosed her with. It cannot be the one that the initial diagnosis was, because there would be no, from that conversation with Black China, it would be impossible for her to go from that to the way she's calling in on the radio right now. It would be impossible. There are known cases of somebody being with dementia that bad, and then all of a sudden being cognitively like the way she is right now.
Even just from our personal experience with people that we know
that's what I mean.
Have struggled with
know that.
It would almost be like
from day to day how much it can change.
100%.
And like Demi Moore always says, like with Bruce Willis, like God bless them, like and how they have come together as a family, new wives, ex-wives, children, and other for a bigger purpose to take care of him, because like the caregiver situation is so much on one person. But they have said that it's important to meet the person where they are now, instead of trying to like make them remember something that they can't, or try and like treat your relationship as it was. Try and meet the person where they are now, because you'll have more like joy in that moment of like,
I think that's really nice.
You know what I mean?
Advice.
Like I thought it made perfect sense to me.
Especially with people that we know, like I've seen firsthand, be like, oh, do you remember this?
Right. Don't do that. You're stressing them out. You're stressing yourself out. Like why do that? Just enjoy the moment. You're almost developing a new relationship with the person. Like it doesn't mean...
You're rebuilding that.
Yeah. It may not be, unfortunately, with all the history you had with them, but like you can still be in the present with them and enjoy where they are at, well, as long as, It's sad. It's an awful thing. But the point is that's not what happened with her. There's no doubt in my mind, just from what I've seen and heard, that she is not in a better place from when that documentary aired.
Okay, so then after her interview with The Breakfast Club, is that when she was seen in the hospital window with the sign that she wrote that says "Help me"?
It was so wild.
If you guys haven't seen that, please check it out.
There's so many things.
It's been everywhere.
Because it was that picture. Because at the time, her father was also having a birthday. Her father, God bless him, is still alive. He lives in Florida. Okay. So all she wanted that was one of the first things that she brought up on The Breakfast Club, is that she wanted to get to see her father for his birthday. Now, according to what The Guardian was saying, that Wendy can come and go as she pleases. She can have visitors.
I don't believe
She has her phone. They were saying all that, right? And she finally is just like, that is not true. I have no access. I can only dial out. So I have to have your phone number. I do not have my phone.
It's not like it's an iPhone.
She said, I am on a locked floor, that even the people that work here have to have a key to get in and out of the elevator. She said, I cannot just go downstairs.
No, she said she's locked in her bedroom all day long.
She says it's like being in a prison. That's what she compared it to, was being in a prison. Now, an expensive prison nonetheless, but a prison. So it's hard because then there's also been articles that say initially she did have free reign when she was first checked in there, and that she was able to move around, and that she
I
went.
haven't seen that.
Oh, that they said that she went down to the floor that has a restaurant and got intoxicated, and
Really?
after that, they changed it to that she had to be on a locked
How
floor.
do they even have alcohol there?
Because it's not like, it's almost like, it seems like it's a living facility that has all different floors. But either way, with her being able to, I don't know if it was actually in the building or not, but if they're saying that when she had initial access, the judge is saying when she had initial access, she didn't do right by the freedoms that she had. And that's why they had to close the leash on her, because she messed up.
Okay.
Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But
She's
it's
probably like, you know what, I'm stuck here anyway. Might as well go get myself a dirty martini.
well, I mean, who knows? I don't know.
Girl. None
I
of us
hear
are
you.
there.
Listen, the struggle is real, regardless with addiction. And if she is, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know, but
Right. Yeah.
whether she still belongs there or not right now, it doesn't seem like it's an appropriate floor for where she is. I mean, you've seen the picture of her standing in the window with the "Help Me" signs.
What
like,
about when she got the police escort? Because when she
Okay.
said, I want to take matters into my own hands.
so it's like basically she wanted her own cognitive testing.
Yes. Which
But-
to me shows someone that knows what's going on. And is
Yeah.
like well aware of the way they're being treated, perceived.
What she
and
has said
placed.
on when she called into the podcast, she said, but she's also very careful with what she says, and she won't use Sabrina's name or the judge's name because she's terrified.
I can't imagine. And she definitely knows what happened to Britney Spears.
Absolutely.
She was aware while that
And
was
let's be
all
honest,
going
that's
on.
why this is even more of a sensitive subject, because of Britney. And even the Free Britney movement, I feel like, is one of the reasons that people felt like, well, let's kind of free Wendy, because if we were able to make it happen for Britney and get her heard, this is terrible too, so let's get her voice out there.
Yeah.
And there's some people that say that the guardianship underestimated the reach that she has. And some people say that the guardian wanted to just make her come off cognitively impaired, incapacitated, lock her away, and that was the end of it.
Which is horrible.
Which is horrible. I mean, it's really, that's the problem with these kind of guardianships too. Like we said before, not to say that they don't sometimes need it to be in place, but like, who draws the line and who
Like
makes
some
these
people
decisions?
like get on like a power high that they're almost like abusing their power.
Right. So now there's this girl, Gina Lisa, involved. And she works for I think the Adult Protective Services.
Okay.
It's like Care Connects. Did I write this on
Is it
here?
Care Connect USA?
That is absolutely, I think, what it is. Okay. So when Wendy started calling into, she called, this I thought was so fucking iconic, which still just goes to show you that she just does iconic shit. She called Rosanna Scotto
On Good Day New York.
on Good Day New York, live on TV.
Good for her.
Now,
Why not? What has she got to lose at this point?
Rosanna has famously, they've been friends for a long time, and Rosanna Scotto has like always taken good care of her. She has said multiple times that no matter what Wendy came in there for, she has always done for her what she needed, whether it meant just giving her, making sure she ate and getting her home safely. Like, she seems like a really good lady to have in your corner. And let's be honest, the food at Fresco by Scotto's is fire.
Fresco by Scotto in the city, guys. Check it out. It's amazing. My mom was the one that was obsessed with
She
going
did. She
there
turned us on to the
for
whole.
like 2 years, and we went, and I can't wait to go back.
She loved the Scotto sisters, and the food was incredible. But so Wendy frequented there often. So I don't know if that's how they became friends, or just because they're both like in the same industry or whatever. But so she calls Rosanna Scotto live on TV. She picks it up, they're talking, and she's like, am I on the air? And she's like, you are. And she's like, where are you calling from, Wendy? And she's like, I'm in the hospital, because the day before, everybody saw her leaving the care unit by police escort.
That's when she's going into the ambulance.
She was going into the ambulance because she was going to the hospital to get her own
round of testing.
round of cognitive testing. She doesn't say that on the, she kind of says, Gina, you speak to it. And I think it's because not because she's not capable, but I think she's genuinely afraid to say
Anything.
that's going to get her in more hot water, because the judge has already spoken out saying that she is not happy, that Miss Williams is speaking to the press and has outright threatened tighter restrictions.
But I don't understand
how that can be. I know.
Like, how can you silence somebody like that?
I know. Well,
especially when she's trying to advocate for herself and she has the APS like advocating for her.
I know. I don't
like,
I don't
she's just
know.
going to go get more testing. Like, are you trying to just have her stay locked in her bedroom without any chance of recovery or anything? Even if they were like, you know, you can move to Florida to be closer to your family, but you still have to be in an assisted living situation.
Well, that's what she even said that's what she said on The View, because she did another interview with The View. She said, her first step is to get a new, like, it sounded very reasonable to me. She said, my first step is to get a new guardian, and then I can get out of the guardianship. So she's not even trying to like pull a Britney, for lack of better, to be like, I want the guardian eliminated. Like, this has been, I mean, Britney also was in that for fucking a decade, or more. But she's not even doing that. She's basically just like, she's playing it smart. And now she has this advocate speaking for her who sent the NYPD to the hospital to investigate that she is being kept against her will.
And they took her out.
Well, just for the testing, but she was only in the hospital overnight. I think that she said that she got some blood work done for her thyroid.
What'd she say? I needed a breath of fresh air.
She said she needed a breath of fresh air. You know what I'm saying? She said I need a breath of fresh air. You know what I'm saying? Like, I love her.
Which is so, like, very
I fucking
cutesy,
love her.
because she's like, I need a breath of fresh air, but I'm going to a sterile hospital.
Yeah, like
that has recirculated air all throughout it.
Which, you know what I mean? Like, she was not saying anything like that on that special. She was out of it. So, and you know, now the other thing that you notice is Alex is back in the picture in a positive way.
I didn't see that.
She's all over the place. But Alex has also said on the morning shows, because Alex has been her voice when she could not speak all this time. Alex has done press and interviews.
And her son, where's he been?
Crickets? I know. I have not heard anything from his son. Listen, he was there when he went. She did make it down for his graduation. And, you know, she said she called into the Breakfast Club after her son's graduation.
Spoke about him.
And she spoke about him. And she said, point blank period, like, my son wasn't doing the right thing at one point. I love my son, but, and she goes, but that's for me to deal with. Like, she sounded like any mother, like my mother would sound, like your mother would sound, like, I'll kick your fucking ass still. Like, and she does not feel ill towards her son, regardless of whatever that situation is. That's for them to work out. Whatever it is. But she did make it to his graduation. She did get to Florida for her dad's birthday, which is amazing, because he's, you know, like, she kept saying she would cry on the interviews being like, time isn't promised. My dad's going to be, I think it was 94 years old. Like, and if you're all saying that she can come and go as she pleases, why is it even an issue that she can go to Florida to see her dad for his birthday?
I also read that when she went out to a restaurant that one time, that they said that she was not allowed to do that.
That was with Alex, and that was after the hospital.
That was that day.
That was after the hospital.
After her testing.
Yes, because she passed with flying fucking colors.
And how could they make that up? Like, I'm sorry, you cannot.
You cannot say that if that's not true. Now, I'm not
like
saying there's all different kind of cognitive exams and different things like that. Like, I'm not saying she was being tested for 24 hours and she's had MRIs and this, but whatever cognitive exam you would give someone to declare whether they are incapacitated or cognitively impaired, she passed.
And I think they did, especially knowing it's Wendy Williams. There's no way that even for themselves, they're like, we're just going to give her one test.
There's no fucking way.
They definitely
went. And that girl Gina said, I heard it with my own ears. She said to Rosanna Scotto that Wendy passed with flying colors.
And Wendy was so excited.
She was so excited. So now this poor fucking lady's like, all right, cool. I'm out of this fucking jail for a little while.
Dump. Get me out of the dump.
I'm going to go out to eat with Alex, her niece. And then they're fucking eating, and from what I understand, they're getting calls saying
that she was going to be arrested.
That Alex was going to be arrested, and she was due back, and that there was people waiting for her. And Wendy said on The View that when she got back there were people that she knows get off at a certain time that did not leave work staff-wise and stayed and waited for her.
In a good way or bad?
Not in a good way. And she felt like as she was walking in, she didn't know what was going to happen, which is an awful feeling. So it sounds like all of the waves have really ruffled people's feathers.
I was just gonna say that being, I can't even like get the words out, but being in a guardianship or a conservatorship, does that mean that you cannot speak?
I don't think...
Like why the judge is saying that she feels like she needs tighter restrictions and to be moved to like
Listen, for all we know, the judge could have not said that, but I saw that picked up.
Could be true.
I saw that picked up in all over the place, and it was in it. Correct me if I'm wrong. Did it not have quotations? I want to say that it did. You know, I have so many notes on it, but I don't think that people would make that up. You know, because it's a judge. But either way, something is wrong, and unfortunately, nobody even knows what the next step is.
I don't know.
I don't know what's going to happen with her.
I wish Britney Spears would come out and say something for her.
That girl still got her own fucking problems.
I know she's twirling in her living room.
I mean, really. I'm like, come on. You know, there's some people that...
Maria Red. Is that what she goes by now?
Oh, yeah, Maria Red. Nicholas, there are still people that say that she should have still been under that, which I don't believe.
No, me neither.
Because in that situation, I don't think her dad in particular had the best of intentions, and whether he did initially didn't end up having, and she was bankrolling a whole lot of people's, you know, but it's the same thing, just like Britney Spears. Remember when she said, well, how can I be considered not able to take care of myself, but I can pay, I don't know how many people's salaries every month?
No, that's fair.
And you're living on an allowance that isn't even enough to buy
water.
It's just crazy.
I think too that when people are concerned over like the post that she's making, I don't know if it was in her book or if she said it on Instagram that she hasn't been able
it's in her book
to, you know, be on social media or grow up with the world. Like
she is very candid,
like
but the problem with that is that people say that those words weren't hers in the book.
I don't know.
I believe it that they were. Most of them, whether she had a ghostwriter or help. I read that book and I listened to it, so I through and through, and it sounded very reasonable to me. And when I think about the times that she's talking about, her freakouts and all the things in real time,
it made sense.
And I heard her explanation about what was going on at that time sounded not only perfectly reasonable, but it sounded so over dramatized to what they did to her. Like it wasn't anything that was like so erratic. Like even the thing, like just to touch on it quickly, even the thing with like her son, like when you see her going out in the gurney, Brittany, when they were taking her out, at the time, she said in the book, at the time that her ex-husband at the time, every time she watched the kids, she would give the kids back to them. She had a fear, or like there was a fear that she was never getting them back again.
I remember.
She said, so that one day, she just took her son into the bathroom and was just like, I just don't want to give him back. It wasn't some dramatic, like running,
or something like
alcohol-fueled dramatic scene where she was running through the house with her child. She literally took her son and was just like, I don't want to give you back. I'm here with mom. Like, it was so heartbreaking to read. And she said, imagine that happens to you. And the next thing you know, there's fucking helicopters at your house and policemen breaking down the door, ripping your child out of your hand, and then strapping you to a gurney. And then it's all being filmed.
Paparazzi
Well,
everywhere.
you're being dragged out of your house, and people had the fucking nerve to comment. Her eyes looked crazy, though. Are you insane? She looked like she'd have a heart attack. Like that, there's only so much people can take. And it is...
Especially if she was dealing with like years of abuse.
There is so many things going on. Like you don't know what's going on behind closed doors. You don't know what people's, like you just don't know what people's struggles are. And it's important that people should be able to get help, but it shouldn't be that easy to take advantage of people and take away their entire livelihood and make them...
Take away their whole dignity as a person.
Their dignity, their livelihood, their financial success, independence. Like, it's not fucking fair.
They took Wendy, honestly, I feel like from 0 to 100.
Yeah. Listen, she ain't going down without a fucking fight. And I really do believe at this point...
I have good vibes for her.
I do too.
I really do.
I really do too. I think that it's too far out there to go back now. And whether there's conflicting opinions or not, I really believe that I have an eyelash that I can't see.
Make a wish for Wendy.
Make a wish for Wendy. I really did. I really do believe that she is going to keep pushing forward until this gets rectified in some sort of a way. And I think that the people behind her, whether it be her family, public figures, famous people, I think people are going to make sure that this doesn't just
slip
through the cracks.
I don't think so
listen,
either.
that's why I wanted to do this too. And like, not saying that we have this huge reach, but I just think it's so important to talk about, because I personally was so just like really
like affected by
heartbroken, because I to see that environment and that vibrant of a person to this is like, it's just like not fair. And like, I even remember there was somebody on her show that had a problem with addiction, and they took a leave of absence, and then when they were done, she made them come back to their position because she felt like she personally knew what it was like to lose opportunities over addiction, so she didn't want that to like happen to somebody. And like,
which is so admirable.
you know what I mean? Like, that's
she's still giving them the chance to improve themselves, but it's like, but you still work so hard for this job.
Yeah, and they're
that
not
you don't not deserve to have it anymore if you worked on yourself to get better.
right. And but people aren't doing that for her,
Fucked.
and that's fucked. So,
free Wendy, please.
on that note, all good vibes to you, Wendy.
To be continued, honestly though.
To
because
be
we're
continued.
definitely
Absolutely.
Gonna have to
I'm
keep
I'm
going on
invested,
with
girl.
this.
It's up there. How many
I'm
times you hear me
invested.
constantly? I'm like watching another
I know.
Wendy Williams things, and like even just for this episode, I rewatched so many things. Even last night, I was going through just like certain things, and I was like, "Oh wait, when was that?" And I was like, horrified all over again.
I know.
Horrified all over again.
But we love you, Wendy, girl.
We love you, Wendy.
If you hear this,
We hope
you're
you
a
hear
queen.
this. We hope you get better, and we hope that you could be in the best possible place in the coming future. Nothing but good vibes and good health
Yes.
and love for you.
And on that note, we'll catch you guys next time.
Bye.
Bye.